Nashville. Yeah, we don't have a Nashville Predators jersey, so we'll just move on from that. But we've still got a fair bit to talk about them. So yes, they've still got lots to run through. So this is going to be their season preview. I'm doing all of that division today, and then the next divisions will be done in the next few days, and every team done before the season kicks off, which is only 4 days away. How exciting! But yeah, not a great season last year. This has been a team that has really dropped off since the heights of 2 years ago when they got 117 points in the regular season. Year before that, not a bad year. They got 100 points, just a little bit more inconsistent. And then the year after that, the wheels really started to fall off the wagon. They would have ended up with about 90 to 92, 94 points, somewhere in that kind of bracket. Obviously, you know, if you're assuming what they're going to get to, it's a little bit hard with the amount of games still left on the table, but it would have been probably safe to say in that sort of space. And so a bit of a letdown. The biggest problem was inconsistency. All year long, this team was inconsistent. They'll win one game and lose another. They couldn't not go on any win streaks or just have a good 2 week period where they could just, you know, win maybe 6 games in a row or 5 games in a row. Those are the big differences between the good teams and the middling lower tier teams, and this is where I consider this team to be. Hines took over his coaching job, which I just think was not the best coach out there. And I think that will be the ultimate letdown. And goaltending is a real issue. That's probably the biggest issue outside of the scoring. So let's see what they did in the off-season. Out the next season is Bonino, Torres, Watson, Hamuse, Smith, and Yannick Weber. So there's no more Webers on the blue line at Nashville, which is kind of a little bit sad. And they bring in Borowicki, Nick Cousins, Luke Cunnan, and Brad Richardson. So, and they re-signed Granlund, of course. So this... You can see what they've kind of done here. They wanted to make a team that's a little bit harder to play against and kind of fix at least the PK side of things. They weren't very good in special teams last year, though. One of the worst teams, like, combined in the league. So, and that was another contributing factor to them not doing very well. But they still haven't fixed the offense side of things. A lot of their players had a below average season, especially some of the big people that make that money. Duchesne, looking at you. And that's really where this team struggles. Like, the goaltending's one thing that I wouldn't really want to put my eggs in that Saros basket. I just don't see him as a full-time starter in the modern NHL. I just can't see it. I hope I'm wrong. I really like the story and everything that comes with it, but I just can't see it. And Pekka Rinne was probably, outside of Matt Murray, who had a horrible season last year, I would say out of the full-time goalies, he was probably one of the worst. And if you look at his advanced stats, it's quite bad. So I can't imagine a goalie's rebounding from such a terrible year. Even Bobrovsky, who had a bad year, his advanced stats, if you kind of go through it, aren't good, but they're not like bottom of the league terrible. Like, you can tell that, like, there was a lot of times that the defense struggled in front of him. So with this team here, it's really tough, seeing that they do have a pretty good defense. It's not as deep as it once was, of course. There's, you know, plenty mentioning that, but it's still a league good defense. And the offensive forwards play a good defensive system, but they just don't score. And this has been the biggest thing for Nashville for so many years, is that they overpay someone that is somewhat of a center, just isn't that guy. This is a team that just needs a franchise center. And I think everything would kind of, and a good goalie, and everything would really work out. And it's something they've been chasing for 20 years now, is to get that special defender, but that special forward, but well, not 20 years, but for quite a while. But yeah, it's just not happened for them. They just haven't been able to get to that next step, and it's been that way for at least the last decade. So where do I have them? I have them 6th in the division. That's their lowest. That's what I think their bottom is. I don't think they can be as bad as the other two teams in this comp. I mean, it's really bad if they get there. I just like what Florida's done, and I think they're a bit more of a fringe team than they are. Top, like the very top for this team, is probably 3rd if everything goes well, but they need a lot of things to go right, and we'll run through what those need to be for them to have a successful season, which I don't think's out of the realm of possibility. Because that's the thing in the NHL, like, you go to predictions at this time, but I like to have kind of like, this is their roof, this is the ceiling, this is where I think they'll go, but if this happens, then they might be able to get to here. I think 3rd in division is the highest they could do. They're not as good as the two juggernauts, of course, but yeah, it's just tough. I mean, Johansson and Duchesne make 20% of this team's cap, just shy of it, and they're not players that have ever come out to be players that should be on that sort of money. that seem to always garnish that sort of respect, but they're just not that player. And it sucks. It sucks for them because they put these eggs in these baskets for a long period of time here, and they just aren't those players. So I think that they're kind of 50 to 60 point scorers in this league. $8 million as your star center, you need more than 50, 60 points. Or you need a very deep lineup. And you can't have a very deep lineup if that's going to be your first line center or your top line if you're paying them 20% if you cap. So it really is really difficult. Yeah, they're definitely going to come in to take another step up. And I mean, he's going to need to be a 50-point player pretty much, which I don't know if he has that in him. I really like what he did last year, to be honest. I think I was a bit surprised the Wild got rid of him. Obviously, there was contract things and a few other things involved, but I was really surprised in that because I liked what he gave to that team. But you know, we'll see how that all pans out. But yeah, it's going to be tough, and they're going to need one of their young players to get into this lineup. So Thomasinen or Tolvanen have to not only make this team, but has to be an impact player for them to have the success to be able to get them to third, fourth. Tolvanen's very interesting because I think if he doesn't have that year this year, probably being exposed to Seattle. So it's so interesting that like he could be a difference maker in this lineup, or it could be going to Seattle. That's kind of where his line is. They do need Yossi again to have a Norris caliber season, at least be in that sort of conversation. And just the rest of the defense to do their job. I still like the way that defense is built, even though it's not as sexy as it once was. I still like their defense. But yeah, the forward line, it's not great. Obviously, yeah, with the departures, a lot of those aren't huge for the team. Some of that's addition by subtraction. People like Carl Turris weren't having a very good year. Nick Bonino, I think it was a good time to get out from under that contract. There's a few things that made sense in the fact that they've got rid of some of those players. I just don't think necessarily it's fixed the team, and they haven't gone out and done something big. In regards to their scoring, like, you know, Arvidsson, he was one of the players that kind of dropped off last year a little bit. Like, a lot of their forwards kind of dropped off last year, so it'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back. If they can, then this team can definitely get into that sort of realm. The other thing that needs to go is that Saros becomes an NHL goal and a starter at that, and can take this ball for most of this season. They're going to have to go to Rene. It's the way the season's built. With the amount of games that are being played, they're going to have to go to Rene. It might be a smart idea to see what else is out there. It's going to be really hard to trade this year because of the 2-week kind of wait to get that player into your lineup. I think it's a week, right? It's 7 days. So a week wait. There's parts in the schedule for most teams that have like 6 days off at certain points that, you know, you could kind of look to them and be like, that might be the moment they make a trade. Or really try ramp up to make a trade. So obviously then not without a player for long. I think if it's a draft picks for players, I think teams would be more inclined to do that, especially when it's the sell-off at the deadline for the Red Wings and those sort of things. We'll get to them. But yes, this is the Nashville Predators season preview. Again, I just don't think it's going to be a great season for them. I'm curious how some of their youngsters go, but yeah, that depth pool's not great. Like, it's not the worst thing this year to not be amazing and get a good draft pick. I think, like, they can kind of do that retool on the fly thing that you kind of see from the Flyers and a few other teams that, like, yeah, they're strong. They couldn't make that next step. It's not too bad to just get an injection of a really good player and start to build out that pool. Obviously, that goalie prospect they picked up, he didn't look good in the World Junior, so yeah, he kept losing his stick. But he might have been battling an injury or what have you, so we'll see how that all works out. But hopefully that's a goalie of the future. So, like, there are positives down the road for this team, and they've got a lot of players that are quite young, that are still under contract, so I think burning a year and just getting a good pick mightn't be the worst thing in the world. It might be the thing that ends up happening, and then in the off-season they can fix some of these issues that hit on this team. Yeah, and then maybe maybe look to trade one of Duchesne or Johansson and see how that all works out. But it's going to be very interesting. Anyway, that is the whole video. I think there's another 4 more to go up today for the season previews. So if you did like this video, hit the like button. Always hit subscribe down below because it does a magic trick where it turns red into grey, and grey's the best colour in the world, so go do that. Unless you're already grey, in which case you've already done your job. Comment down below, what do you think Nashville's going to do? It was a bit hard to see a lot of information on this team. Not a lot of love for Nashville out there. So you start to. This is the first year I've done all the season previews for every team, and you really start to see that it's like NHL.com, a few other things out there. I of course avoid the hockey guy like it's the plague, just because I don't want to sound anything like him or have any of the same points. Even though obviously I think we probably would draw a few of the same conclusions with this team. I'd be curious what he said. Yeah, maybe after this video I'll have a look and see what he said. No, I won't watch it. It's too tempting, and then I'll watch a few others and then it'll warp my opinions on things. But yeah, I'll be curious to see. Yeah, just not a lot of love. I thought this was a much more popular franchise, but yeah, not a lot of love in just hockey media itself in that kind of realm. So yeah, but we'll see how it all goes. I do hope they're at least in the mix for things. It just spices up this division a bit if there's 6 teams going for it. I just don't see it. That's the only issue. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. See you, and bye.